All right. All right, should be live. This is your creation. My name is Adam Starseed Bay. I was doing research earlier, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I need to just start, or I'm doing my research, or just coming across ideas and things of that nature. Just make a video, and that'll get me out there a little more. If you guys got any questions or concerns, you can get with me as I make these videos. So I was watching Star Trek. I love Star Trek. I always end up going back to it, so I'm watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine. But the episode I was watching had to do with a character named O'Brien, and he thought that the whole crew was against him, and he ended up having to leave the ship because he thought something bad was going to happen to him. So he left the ship, and later on, come to find out, he goes into this place that he had a hunch was there was bad things taking place. You know, like they were exchanging stuff, and he come across that another O'Brien was there, and they ended up shooting the O'Brien that escaped the space station, and he got shot there. And then the real O'Brien came out, and he's like, "Holy cow, man, that looks just like me." But it really, I didn't remember that episode too well, but it reminded me of the episodes of past Star Treks where it had to do with worms and parasites controlling the characters or taking control over the Federation. And I remember reading and watching some stuff about the Archons and how they could be parasites within our body and controlling our body. And that's what I remember doing research on. And man, I think that was, I think I did research on it last year. And that's what I came across. But I've been doing some research on just kind of trying to figure out. You're going to hear me talking double here in a second. Just bear with me here. There we go. All right, so I was looking up in Archons and learning more about, you know, like the history of war. And as I'm reading through Archons, so we'll go ahead and read the definition of Archons here real quick. And then we'll start to get into a history lesson here. So Archon. Archon is a Greek word that means ruler, frequently used as a title of a specific public office. It is the masculine present participant of the verb stem, meaning to rule, derived from the same root as monarch or hierarchy. In early literal period of ancient Greece, the chief magistrates of various Greek city-states were called archon. The term was also used throughout Greek history in a more general sense, ranging from club leader to masters of the tablets to Roman governor. In Roman terms, archontis ruled by imperium, where whatever that is, talking about kings. In Athens, a system of 3 concurrent archons evolved, the 3 office holders being known as the Archon Eponymus, the Palmarch, and the Archon Pesilius. I have no idea. According to Constitution of the Athenians, oh my word, I hate big words. The power of the king first devolved to the archons, and these offices were filled from the aristocracy by elections every 10 years. During this period, the archons were chiefs, blah blah blah. let's see, the Archons was responsible for the civic religious arrangements after 683 BC. And I'll get to what that means here earlier before that. The offices were held for only a single year. The year was named after the Archons. Blah, 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 blah. So basically, it's just letting you know that the Archons is a title, right? It's a title. And this is where my research was starting to get a little bigger here. So I clicked into Pole March, right? It was a single military title, blah, blah, blah. And this, let's see, what is debating among? At the Battle of Marathon, Herodotus described the vote of Permos as a deciding factor during debate over engagement in battle. It is disputed whether this vote implies that the position of Marchos was equal to the strategio or that of the commander-in-chief. The Marchos' military responsibilities continued until 487, when a new procedure was adopted and magistrates were then appointed by lot. Following this reform, the military duties were handled by the blah, blah, blah. Alright. Again, has to do with military. And what was the other one? Archon. Eponymous. I have no idea. Classical Athens, a system of 9 concurrent archons evolved. So there was nine commanders or 9 leaders. Now this is interesting because if you look into like the Freemasons, Illuminati, there's a Council of 9. There's a Council of 9, and that would have to involve this Archon monument system of 9. It was led by 3 respective remotes over the civic, military, and religious affairs. And this is important. This is what really got me interested. So I'll read this again. In classical Athens, a system of 9, the Council of 9, concurrent archons evolved, led by 3 respective remotes over the civic, military, and religious affairs of the state. The 3 office holders were known as the, I don't know what that word is, eponymous archon, the pole march, which you talked about a little bit ago, and the archon Louis, I have no idea, which means king ruler. So pole march is war ruler, and archon Basil Louis whatever is king ruler. The 6 others were the Thesamothod. Oh my gosh, these words are horrible. Alright, let's find out what this word is here. Then we can read on it. Uh-oh, what happened here? Not sure what happened. It just disappeared. Let's see here. It just takes me back to where I was. That doesn't really give me an explanation on what that word means. Alright, anyways. I know I'm kind of bouncing back and forth here, but just hang tight. Judicial officers, originally these officers were filled okay. The 6 others were the, whatever that word is, judicial officers. Originally, these offices were filled from the wealthier classes by elections every 10 years. During this period, whatever that word is, Archons was the chief magistrate, the pole march, war ruler, and this is all going to fall into place here. So we got war ruler and king ruler. So the chief magistrate, the war ruler, was the head of the armed forces and the Archon was Basileus, which is the king ruler, was responsible for some civic religious arrangements. And remember, all of this is happening in Greece and Greek and Rome. During this period, blah, 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 blah. And for the supervision of some major trials in the law courts, after 683 BC, the officers were held for only a single year, and the year was named after the whatever Archons. Many Greek cities. All this stuff was happening in the Greek cities, because that's where a lot of this stuff happened, Greek and Rome. Let's see, there was a council of Archons which exerted a form of executive government. From the late 8th century, there were 3 Archons. We already read that. During this period, the Archons was the chief magistrate. The war leader was the head of the armed forces. And the Archon, the king leader, was responsible for religious arrangements, blah, blah, blah. So you kind of get the idea. So basically, those are the key words as we're doing research here is war ruler and king ruler. So king ruler is in charge of religious affairs. War ruler is in charge of the war. And then you got the wealth, so on and so forth. So let's continue on. Like I said, it's going to be a little confusing for you guys. I'm just doing research here just to kind of give you guys an idea what it's like to do research, because it's bizarre. So let's go ahead and I will read you off of this character I learned about recently. Gotta find him. I think this is it. There's a couple things that I was learning. Nope, that's not it. So if anybody's in the chat room, definitely give me a shout out. If you got any questions, concerns, let me know. Come on, work. Oh yes, Constantine the Great. Now this is an interesting guy. Now actually, this actually happened afterwards. So actually there's some history before we get to Mr. Constantine here. But we're going to go ahead and read about Constantine and we'll see what happens. So Constantine the Great. You're looking at a Latin word, Greek word, whatever it may mean. Also known as Constantine. Was a Roman emperor of Illyrian and of Greek origin. He was the son of Flavius, whatever, a Roman army officer, and his consort Helena. His father became Caesar. Okay, his father became Caesar, the deputy emperor in the West. Okay, in the West. What's the West? That's where we're at right now. In 293 AD, Constantine was sent east, where he rose through the ranks to become a military tribune under Emperor Diocletian and Galerius. I have no idea. In 305, Constantine raised himself to the rank of Augustus, senior Western emperor, and Constantine was recalled west to campaign under his father, which is Britain, right? It's all intertwined. Got Britain, England, the Romans, the Greeks. They're all the same thing, and they all have created a dominating military force. And we're going to look into some other things as well. Constantine was acclaimed as emperor by the army of Aberystwyth, modern-day York. After his father's death, he emerged victorious in a series of civil wars against Emperor Maxentius and to become a sole ruler of both the West and the East. And remember, this was back in 324. So he was in charge of the West and the East. As emperor, Constantine initiated administrative, financial, social. Okay. Constantine enacted administrative of the financial, social, and military reforms to strengthen the empire. He restructured the government, separating civil and military authorities to combat inflation. He introduced the solidus, a new gold coin that became the standard for Byzantine and European currencies for more than 1,000 years. So he created a gold coin currency. The Roman army was reorganized to consist of mobile field units and garrison soldiers capable of countering internal threats and barbarian invasions. Constantine pursued successful campaigns against the tribes on the Roman frontier of the Franks, the Alemanni, Goths, and the Samaritans. Interesting. Even resettling territories abandoned by its predecessors during the crisis of the 3rd century. Basically taking advantage of abandoned territories. Man, if you want to conquer, you might as well conquer areas that are abandoned, right? Constantine was the first, and that'd be a good way of creating secret bases too. Constantine was the first Roman Empire to convert to Christianity. Right, the first Roman Empire to convert to Christianity. Although he lived most of his life as a pagan, he joined the Christian faith on his deathbed. Being baptized by whoever, he played an influential role in the proclamation of the Edict of Milan in 313, which declared religious tolerance for Christianity. In the Roman Empire. I bet you that caused a lot of interesting things in the empire at that time. He called the First Council of Nicaea in 325 that produced a statement of Christian belief known as the Nicene Creed. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre was built on his orders at the purported site of Christ's tomb in Jerusalem and became the holiest place in Christendom. The papal claim to temporal power in the High Middle Ages was based on the supposed donation of Constantine, now regarded as a forgery. Interesting. He is venerated as a saint by the Eastern Orthodox and Catholic Church. He is a saint of the Vatican. He has historically been referred to as the first Christian empire, and he did heavily promote the Christian church. Some modern scholars, however, debate his beliefs and even his comprehension of the Christian faith itself. But remember, was part of the Roman Empire, the Vatican. So you'd have to do research on the Vatican around that time frame too, which would be 313 or so AD. You can do research forever on this stuff. So yeah, definitely if you want to do research on the Vatican around that time frame, I'm sure you're going to learn some interesting stuff. The age of Constantine marked a distinct epoch in the history of the Roman Empire. He built a new imperial residence at and renamed the city Constantinople after himself. Of course, why not, right? You conquer it, you might as well name it after yourself. Latatory, whatever that word is, New Rome came later. The New Rome came later and was never an official title. It became the capital of the empire for more than 1,000 years, with the later Eastern Roman Empire now being referred to as the Byzantine Empire by historians. His more immediate political legacy was that he was replaced by some tetrarchy with the principle of dynastic succession by leaving the emperor to his sons. His reputation flourished during the lifetime of his children and centuries after his reign. The medieval church upheld him as a paragon of virtue, while secular rulers invoked him as a prototype. a point of reference, and the symbol of emperor legitimacy and identity. Beginning with the Renaissance, there was more critical peril of his reign due to the rediscovery of anti-Constantinian sources. Trends in modern and recent scholarship have attempted to balance the extremes of previous scholarships. Interesting. So yeah, Constantine definitely was an influence in the AD era. So, and then that would make the crap. Let's go back to Archons here. So that'd make the Archons before that. I might have to look back into the Archons. I got all this stuff open up here. Let's go back to Archons. There we go. Alright, so let me make sure I get the dates right here. So yeah, so the Archon faction was way back in 683 BC. So Constantine was quite a ways after that. So the Archon realm of things was happening before that. So I'd have to figure out how that all matches up. But I mean, as far as Constantine and Caesar goes, that's definitely a lot more in tune with what we have now with the military structure. So if you do research like on the war we had with Nazi, right? On America with Nazi Germany. And you do research on that, you'll learn that, the Nazis won that war. And that Germany took control over everything. I mean, that's why we have NASA and all that stuff. A lot of it was all ran by German scientists and all of those. Man, that was weird. What was that? Anyways. Let's see. Torrens Garden says, Archons are basically negative thoughts which can be caused by microbiome. Wow, I've never even heard of that word. But see, and Torrens Garden got it right too, because that's what I thought Archons are too. To me, I want to say that Archons are some kind of parasite that takes control of the body, that has consumed humanity, right? Consumed humanity. And you got to look at it this way, I mean, if you are a parasite, right? A small parasite, no one's ever going to be able to find you, especially if you're in a human host. And that's what I thought the Archons were. And that's why I'm doing research on the Archons, because there's some kind of connection there, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. But I ended up coming across all this military structure stuff, and it makes a lot of sense, and it really ties in with how the American military is set up, right? Because I mean, you look at the structure and how things are, right? You got I'm gonna look this microbiome word up here in just a second. Unless a Torin wants to write some stuff down, that'd be awesome. But as far as the military goes, you got to look at the structure and how the American thing is set up. Because for one, it's Europeans, right? The Queen of England, all that stuff. That's the starting point. That's the starting point. The Queen of England. Why do you think there's a queen in that area? That's the starting point. The Council of Nine originates there. And then you got the head of the Illuminati originates there, right? I want to say the Lodge. I think the Lodge is a higher order of the Illuminati. I think that's what I read, something like that. We had like the Lodge, Council of Nine, the Lodge, things like that. Just going over the top of my head. And then you got the Roman Empire, you got the Vaticans, right? Because what I say, there was a war ruler and the king ruler. And the king ruler is in charge of religious affairs. And who is in charge of the religious affairs? That's the Vatican. And who's in charge of the war affairs? And that would be the Roman Empire, the Greeks, things like that. And then you're going to have the wealth, the banking system, right? The banking system, right? I mean, you can learn about the Rothschilds, right? That's one of the bigger names, the Rothschilds, but it's deeper than that. It more than likely originates from England. And if you read, about Constantine and Caesar, right, that also involves the currency, right? The currency. They created that currency and it continued on. I mean, where do you think we got all these symbols from? It all originated from Rome, Vatican's, England, and granted, like I've been talking about, they stole all this stuff from the Egyptians because they feel that they can re-emerge themselves, right? The elite can re-emerge themselves as the next great Egyptian empire. They are mimicking, or at least they're trying to mimic what happened in ancient Egypt. And it's hard to say, like the reasons behind that, because you definitely have to, um, you'd have to do research on what happened with the Egyptian empire. Because I mean, it's a desert wasteland, right? So I mean, that thing had to have been abandoned for uh, thousands and thousands, if not, longer than that. And I got a theory. I got a theory too about the sands of Egypt, right? All the sand, right? I really feel it's sawdust, right? Because we had these big old trees, huge trees around the world, right? And they cut them trees down. They had to put that sawdust somewhere. So why not put it there? So it's hard to say, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, something happened. The Egyptians, they abandoned everything and they left. And then now we got this Roman Empire in England that just dominated everything. And then they run pretty much, they run the military. I mean, if you got a good military force, that's what's going to run the world, is a good military force, because that's your what would that word be? Uh, that's a win-win situation. I mean, if you have a powerful military structure, you're going to have dominance over the world. And you look at other countries, right? You look at other countries like China or Japan and whatnot. Their military structures are pretty small compared to America. But like I said, you look into the mafia aspect of things and how everything is cartel. You got the secret services, you got the FBI. You got a huge branch of stuff. I mean, if you're in charge of the mafia and all that stuff, you're going to be ruling. And like I said, England. England is the starting point of that era. And that brings me to a point of the Hooded Druids. Was looking research on that as well. I kind of got my research all over the place today, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna make a video. I don't know how this video will turn out. It's all over the place right now, but it's fascinating to me on how we really need to learn where these words come from. Again, I thought Archons was some kind of ET race. And that's what they were called, right? Because, the ancients talked about the Archons, but you do research, it's all about the military, it's the structure of war, the structure of religion, and the structure of wealth. That's the three main components of starting an empire. So, I mean, that could definitely, make you aware that the world is run by an Archon state empire, right? It's an Archon state empire. Not ran by some ETs called Archons, but it's a military structure. A military structure. And that fascinates me. It really does. It gives me a different mindset of military strategy, or how you want to run a world or run a business, right? I talk about, you want to treat your life like a business. So you expand upon that business and you create an empire. You create an empire. You can learn a lot um, on how empires were built because of how the Romans did it. England did it, and how they dominated, right? How they dominated. They lied, they cheat, they steal. Germany got involved, and now they also help run some of the United States affairs. And I try to remember to say United States and not America, because those are two separate entities. United States is the company, a business that was formed here um, in these lands, right, in the American land. So quite fascinating stuff. It definitely is. That's why it's always good to do research and try to get to the bottom of all this stuff. But anyways, I want to look this up that Toron has about these microbiomes, whatever that may be, and then we'll see what else we find. Okay. Microbiome definition. There we go. Microbio. All right, perfect. So let's see what this is. A microbiote, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, is an ecological community of commensal symbiotic and pathogenic microorganisms. See, and that's what I thought the Archons were, and they could be still too. Found in and on all multicellular organisms, studied to date from plants to animals. And microbiota included bacteria, archaea, protist, fungi, and viruses. Microbiota have been found to be crucial for immunologic, hormonal, and metabolic homeostasis of their host. Okay, of their host. That's a big one right there. The Cinnamos term micro describes either the collective genomes, there we go, of the microorganisms that reside in an environmental niche, or the microorganisms themselves. The microbiome and host emerged during evolution as a synergistic unit from epigenetics and genetic characteristics. Holy crap. Sometimes collectively referred to as a hollow biont. Interesting. And that's why, including myself, parasites live within our bodies, and you can just imagine, a whole ecosystem. I like Osmosis Jones. That's such a good reference, man. Osmosis Jones, the movie. You have a whole ecosystem that is living within your body, right? So you have all these little living beings, soul beings that have consciousness streams and things of that nature. So, in a way, we are host to all of these little civilizations, or massive civilizations within our body, And, you have to think of all the chemical, what would that word be? mixing chemicals, right? Mixing chemicals within your body. What kind of genetic manipulation that can be caused, mutation that can be caused within your body. I mean, reading all this stuff, right? Microbiota includes bacteria, archaea, protists, fungi, and viruses, okay? So you have those kind of foundations right there. So with all these genetic modifying of the foods, mixing these chemicals, right? They put a lot of chemicals in food. If you don't pay attention, you don't know what you're putting in your body. Very important to find out what you're putting in your body. But you have all these chemical compounds, uh, all these chemicals that just you mix these chemicals together, you're going to have some kind of reaction or some kind of genetic mutation within your body or within the host, right? Because you're feeding all of these bacterias, right? I mean, that's what scientists do, right? They do research and find out what all of this bacteria does, what happens if they put this chemical compound and they eat it. What does it do? What kind of mutation does it reconfigure, reconstruct, right? All of these mutations, and that's what's been going on since 70s, I think. I want to say the 70s. I don't really think there's any genetic manipulation until after the Nazi war, when Germany won. Right? That's when you start seeing all the genetic testing. You do research on what the Germans did with their on how they did all of their chemical testing on their people, right? On their people. And they even practiced that in World War II, which I think is the same war. I don't know. But that's what the Nazis did, is they used all of these chemicals and tested it on their citizens. And because the Nazis won the war and Germany took over the scientist aspect of things, that's why we have all this genetic mutation within our body, and people aren't aware of it. That's why people act weird. We have all of these deformities with babies being born, right? A lot of babies just aren't born right because they have that extra chromosome or whatnot. It's caused by a form of mutation, And I ain't no scientist, but I mean, there's definitely a lot of basic facts that you can definitely find out, and you just put the piece of the puzzle together. I mean, that's part of research. I wouldn't know about this stuff if I didn't do no research. So yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, America, the United States, right? The company called United States um, is testing its citizens on genetic manipulation. What is the reason and cause behind this? I'm not getting off track with the Archon thing, but it all leads into the same thing. Why would they be doing this genetic manipulation, right? Trying to see what mutates and evolves. They trying to dumb us down. It's possible because I mean, if you do research on some of the chemicals and as well as people, eating uh, parasitic animal flesh too, right? That's gonna cause a lot of things as well. Just creates more parasites within your body and worms, and then you just become a host of these worms. So with all this genetic modified food and stuff put in your body, you're just feeding those worms, and they're they're growing within your body. And it's hard to say what it's doing to them. And it's hard to say what the whole process of that is. Is it the process of elimination of humans? Are they trying to uh, alter the DNA codes and go back to, I mean, that's what Hitler was all about, right? He was trying to discover who these Palladian beings were, right? The blonde-haired and blue-skinned beings were. So I mean, maybe that's where they were trying to reproduce. I don't know. I don't know. It's bizarre stuff. All I know is that you do research on this stuff. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. There really is. And I mean, that could be. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of weird um, things here. I'll just reading here. I guess I could read while I'm talk while I read, right? All plants and animals, from simple life forms to humans, live in close association with microbial organisms. Several advances have driven the perception of microbiomes, including the ability to perform genomic and gene expression analysis of single cells and even of entire microbial communities in the new disciplines of the metagenomics. And I had to get some scientists on here, man, and pronounce these words. Massive database making this information accessible to researchers, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and quit reading that. But yeah, it's fascinating stuff. I mean, there's definitely some weird stuff going on with genetic manipulation and with all these micros. And that stuff's happening all the time, you know? It's bizarre. Let's see here. Alright, so let's go ahead and we'll see what else we got here. We already talked about that. Let's see if I can find the alien version of Archons, because I swear I remember reading about that. And it could just be that. I don't know. Archon aliens, maybe. Right? But I still think the definition of Archons has to do with a military structure. Or actually, you know what? Let's do this. Archons in scriptures. Which I betcha has to do with military. Actually, you don't really find anything on it. Let's see here. Yeah, it just comes across the same conclusion. Authorities, leaders, magistrate, officials, prince, rulers. That's all that Archons are, man. It's just a title. It's not what I thought it was. So, it's just a military title. That's all it is. I mean, the world is run, you know, by a military structure, and that's a no-brainer there. I mean, that's where you would have to dig deeper into like the Greys, which you learn more and more that the Greys are just hosts, right? Or just hosts or beings that are helping the world leaders. Man, I learned some interesting stuff too, man. I was doing some research on let's make sure I get this right here. Like I said, I'm doing research on the Archons and Anunnaki based on David Icke. And David Icke swears the Archons are aliens. So, I don't know. I don't really trust David Icke all that much. But let's go back here. Here we go. All right. So, oh man, actually I went too far. There we go. Mount Adams. That's what I was looking at. All right. So, you know James Gilliland, right? And how he bought a ranch up there where Mount Adams, Washington State is, right? So, this kind of got me really curious about some things about Mount Adams. So for one, and this is one of the key things that I always try to present and make you guys be aware of, that there's agents everywhere. Um, Nothing goes into the public unless if the military or national security allow it to be public, right? Allow it to be public. So that to me is an automatic red flag whenever Fox News or things like that promote these UFOs, right? These UFOs that are in the sky. I guess Fox did a whole thing on Mount Adams and James Gilliland and things like that. There's something weird there. Something weird there. I mean, at the end of the day, I always live by the same motto: DTA. Don't trust anybody. That's a key word. Do not trust anybody. And it's a sad, sad thing to live by, but it's true because you don't know. You don't know people personally. You don't know. I mean, once you get to know somebody, maybe, right? Maybe. I mean, you gotta trust sometimes, right? You gotta trust some people, but I don't know. There's just some things you just gotta really watch out for. So James Gilliland and Mount Adams. Basically, this one guy went up there and did some footage. Now, let me see if I can find that guy's name here. I want to say it was Rob, I think. I think it was. But anyways, they ended up staying the night at James Gilliland's ranch. And they ended up coming across Mount Adams, right? And they were able to see some kind of doorway or cave there. And they ended up seeing some craft flying in and out. I mean, that's where all of the UFOs are happening. Is from that, right? Is from that. And I was watching one video showing it from the Google Earth or whatever it may be. From a top view, it kind of looks like a ship. But I guess if you do some research, it's actually, I guess Mount Adams is some kind of supposed volcano, right? And the whole of the volcano is on the side of it, which is kind of interesting. So again, hard to say. But what fascinates me about Mount Adams though is with so much UFO UFO phenomenons happening there, that leads me to believe that more than likely is some kind of underground base, right? Some kind of underground base. I wouldn't say it's, goes into the Middle Earth and then you got all these amazing beings down there. I don't think that's it at all. I really do think that Mount Adams is some kind of military research facility, and more than likely that's probably what it is. Which that would explain why you have all of these people that are able to speak freely of it, right? James Gilliland says, he was attacked and stuff. Could be true. I don't know. I mean, James Gilliland could be the real deal. I have no idea. But I mean, when people get into the spotlight, that to me is a red flag because there's something going on. There's something going on. And with David Icke and all that, that it just to me is a red flag of some kind. But it's hard to say. You don't know who's real, who isn't, right? You don't know. But definitely Mount Adams definitely is a unique structure. But if you go into look into like Mount Shasta, now Mount Shasta has a more magical feel to it, and it has some legitimate story to back up that it's more in tune with the beings living inside the earth, right? Like they have the whole place on lockdown where no one can enter. Compared to this one, it looks like it's it's staged in some way, shape, or form. It's staged. And I mean, I did research on it with YouTube, and I only found a couple people that climbed Mount Adams, but they never went and observed that area over there. So I don't know if it's blocked off, if they can't get to it. The one video I watched, I mean, it was insane. And there's snow there too, all the time. There's snow there, and that's weird too. So it's bizarre. It's bizarre. I question everything. I mean, that's what I do. All right, we got Andrew Golden here. How's it going, man? I heard one man refer to the chief Archon as Lucifer himself. And remember, Lucifer is what translates as the light bringer. So, I mean, chief Archons would just mean that they are the light bringers, right? The light bringers. Oh, we got Fractal Truth in here. How's it going, Fractal? Yeah, I I've been peeped last year and a half. Gotta love the typos when you're trying to type this in if you're on your phone, man. I'm trying to decipher what you're saying here. But it looks like you've been researching stuff the past year and a half or so on UFO conspiracy stories. And then we got Grim Reaper saying here, interesting, very interesting stuff. And it's bizarre. And I've been listening to a lot of Jordan Maxwell, like I was talking about in a previous video. Man, he's a hidden gem that nobody knows about. Nobody knows about, and everybody's taking his stuff and just claim it as their own. When he's the originator of all of these secret society findings, right? So I was listening to him talk on another show he was on, because he's really is all over the place, and they were talking on Hollywood or Holywood, right? Hollywood. I mean, that's one of the dominating factors of where some of the world leaders dominate. But they were talking about this area in the mountains around there, right? Los Angeles, Hollywood, around there, and that there's this big mountain that has a whole structure built within it, right? And if you're outside of it, you'll never know that there's a huge building there, as well as underground building. It reminded me of the Batcave, because Jordan Maxwell said that it opened up like the mountain opened up, and it reminded me exactly like the Batcave, right? Batman. Hidden stuff, right? Hidden stuff is just all over these TV shows. So it just reminded me of the Batcave, with all the secrets, right? With all the vampires hiding, the bats hiding within the Batcave, right? Hidden symbolism. I've talked about 13 Sun before. I learned a lot from that guy, and come to find out, a lot of his research comes back from Jordan Maxwell. And there was another guy he looked up to, I don't remember, but I learned a lot from 13 Sun too. But he was talking about the Batcave too. He was also talking about the owls. Owls are symbolism as well. Everything's symbolism, symbolic. The world leaders are pretty smart on how they do things, because they use parables and symbolisms to make sure that you can't that you're not going to decipher it all the way. They don't really care. They don't care about me talking about this stuff. Nothing. Now, if I was naming names and I knew exactly what was going on to a T, I'd probably be red flagged. But I mean, all the stuff I'm talking about now, it don't really matter. It ain't gonna hurt them one bit. They're gonna keep doing what they're gonna do, right? That's just how it is. And so that's why it's fun to talk about this stuff, because it's just research. I mean, it doesn't hurt them. They just laugh at us and whatnot. But yeah, everything's all parables and symbolisms. They do that to hide their truth, right? To hide their truth. Um, everything is secret, right? Everything is secret. And but yeah, anyways, so yeah, that Batcave area in Hollywood or Los Angeles, whatever. They were saying they all the world leaders and famous movie stars and stuff all hang out there. They do military testing and genetic manipulation, which is no brainer there. Um, all this stuff, I mean, it reminds me of, in the Bible, it talks about it how all of these people will hide within the mountains, but no mountain will hide them from the power or glory of Christ or God, whatnot, right? They can't hide in the mountains forever. Eventually, everything will be revealed, and that's what's going on now. I mean, it's hard to say what happens. That's one of the key things that Jordan Maxwell said is that there's nothing that we can do about it, and the way and how they have their military set up, right? You got the war ruler, just like we talked about earlier, and the king ruler, as well as the money or the currency, right? The currency. Um, you rule that, man. I mean, you got it in your fingertips. You're never gonna know who the dominating force is. But what Jordan Maxwell said is that he would be terrified for these people to emerge. You don't want the world leaders, the main leaders to emerge because that would just, for one, shock the heck out of people, and two, it would just be it would be a bloodbath. It would be insane. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting strategy and a realistic perception on things. I'm all about being realistic on things. Um, many New Age people can talk about all this lovey-dovey stuff and that we just have to just bring peace and light and life is good, right? But it's so much more complex. It's so much more complex. That's why I made that spiritually dead video. I think I made that yesterday. I lose track of the days, but yeah, that's why I made that spiritually dead because at the end of the day, I could spend my whole life doing research trying to figure out who's running the world, but that depletes my energy and that depletes the mission of why we're here. I'm all about healing. I'm all about learning the true realistic viewpoints of what spirituality is, what energy is, synergy is, healing within the body, um, all that stuff. Getting down to the bones of things, figuring this stuff out. I mean, I woke up in 2010, was unaware of any of this stuff. I didn't even know what the Illuminati was, right? I heard a little bit about it when I was doing research on UFOs. I always watched X-Files and all that back in the 90s. Vaguely heard about the Illuminati, but never really did research on it. But I lost my train of thought now. But at the end of the day, in 2010, I learned about that stuff, and then I got into meditation and a more deeper praying, because like I said, Christ is my foundation, always has been my foundation. And that's when I started learning on remote viewing, learning how to speak with the spirits and learning how to speak with spirit guides and the ancestors. All that stuff I had to learn by myself because there was nothing that I could find on the internet that helped me learn on how that stuff worked. Helped me learn how that stuff worked. I had to self-teach myself all of this stuff. So that's where I realized, that, you can go to all these classes you want, whether it be Kundalini class, meditation class, yoga class, whatever it may be. They're classes. But once you leave that class, are you still doing the work after that class? Same way with working out. I'm having a hard time trying to get to the gym because I don't have a whole lot of time day to day because I want to talk to you guys. I work 40 plus hours, take care of family, etc., etc., etc. So, so it's nearly, it's a strategizing uh, way of life on how to self-develop that spiritual awareness and make it real, allow you to understand it more instead of it just being a monkey see, monkey do aspect. Some people catch on real quick, some people don't, and some people just are still in the baby steps. It's so fascinating to me on how much uh, baby steps people are. And I was in the baby step stage too, and but it's a lack of knowledge, and just you don't know what to look for. I never knew that Archons meant military structures, right? I had no idea, and we learned that today. There's so much to learn, but at the end of the day, I can get sidetracked with all this stuff and lose touch with, like I said, my mission is to get you guys spiritually informed. So, I've been really trying to figure out exactly. Um, Here, let's read Fractal Truth's thing here. I was noticing the last year and a half or so that mainstream media has been covering UFO conspiracy stories and thought that it was interesting that they would be highlighting these. Very true, and just like um, with the revelations of the Space Force thing, right? Another national security thing, and how they're wanting to, the United States wants to dominate space, right? And that has to do again with the Archons, the war ruler, and whatever it may be. Again, that's an Archon strategy. Man, that's insane to me. It really is. It really is crazy. Um, but yeah, I think I'm gonna probably end this video here shortly. Been talking. Holy cow! I've been talking for an hour. Wow, hour flew by. We really only kind of touched the iceberg of this stuff here. And that's what I'm saying, man. It's that, this research stuff is endless. It's endless. But I wanted to bring this stuff up. I definitely want to talk about the hooded, or do some research more on the hooded druids. Gonna get some ideas there. Again, that has to do with, you do research on the druids, you learn it has a lot to do um, with magic and the occult. Luciferian, right? Lucifer's the light bringers. You can also look at light bringers too in this analogy, and I've been talking about this for a while now. Is that, view the stars in the sky. View the stars in the sky as beings, as stated in the Testament of Solomon. And then you step it up even more, is that it is the eyes of the world, the watchers of the world, right? We don't know who's good, we don't know who's bad. All we know is that there's eyes surrounding us always. What's talked about in the book of Revelations, about all these eyes watching over humanity, these watchers. So it's definitely where things are getting more and more revealed all the time. I mean, at least for me anyways. I mean, other people are talking about this stuff too, but they're not mixing it to the spiritual aspect of things. And I can never not focus on that, because it's a spiritual warfare. That's what it is, and that's what World War III. Hopefully, I don't get censored for all this stuff, because war is kind of a big censorship word. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, I'm not very well known, so I'm just kind of a little brush off. But at the end of the day, it's a spiritual warfare. I mean, that's what it is. It's to harness your energy, deplete your spiritual energy, and have you stay plugged into the matrix, right? Keep you away, set yourself apart, which is what I talked about yesterday too. Set yourself apart from your spiritual essence. And I posted this in a chat room I'm in with some good friends, and you know, I talked about that too. You know, there's two words. There is uh, let's see if let me get this right here, because I kind of messed it up a little bit in my last video, but you know, it's a learning process. You know, I don't ever claim that I know everything, because I don't, because I'm constantly learning new stuff. But Kodesh means apart, right? And that's what I said yesterday's video. What's Kodesh meant set apart? Well, um, in this Bible here I got, it lets you know if it's like a pagan word. So Kodesh would be apart or holy, like the word holy is apart, right? So holy, holy, holy would mean apart, apart, apart from us, from Christ or the Creator, right? You know, that we're far away from the Creator. And then the correct term would be uh, kadosh. Kadosh is the true version of set apart, which means sanctify or sanctified, which is basically the same concept of holy, is to set apart, right? So, you know, their way of setting apart us is to set us apart from spirituality. And then, you know, Christ came down, and at least it's Christ's story anyways, allowed us to learn about the I am aspect, right? The I am, look within yourself. You'll find the Father within you, the Creator within you. Heaven is within you. You know, everything is within. And then that's where praying comes in, meditation comes in. You know, all these things come into play, and you know, you begin to communicate with your ancestors and your spirit guides and all of this interesting stuff within you. So there is no separation from the Creator. The only person that's creating separation is the world. Is creating that separation. You know, that's why spirituality is misunderstood. And again, you know, all of this stuff was taken from us during the Dark Ages. You know, the Vatican has all these books. They did not burn them all. They have them safely saved. So whenever it's no longer there, those books will be there. So, yeah. But it's not all lost. But like I said, at the end of the day, you know, you got your Akashi records or your DNA records within you, and you can learn about all this stuff within yourself. But it takes practice. And I think that's what I really just need to do. I need to just create a private classes for you guys, and then just talk about this stuff. You know, whether one or two people show up, or there's a whole bunch of people. You know, it will grow and develop. But at least, you know, I'll be able to have you guys look at this stuff from a whole different mindset. You know, I haven't met anybody yet, and you know, like I said, you know, I'm learning daily, but I really haven't met anybody yet that is bringing in Christ's teachings, right? You know, it doesn't matter whether Christ was a real person or not, right? What's Christ translate to the anointing. So it's the anointing of the Spirit within you. The I am anointing of the Spirit. Man, I gotta go. But yeah, it's anointing of the Spirit, and it's always overlooked. It's not talked about. I just listened to another guy that I've been watching for 10 years, right? 9 years, whatever, you know, around the same time I woke up. Talking about the same thing, is that we need to discover the Godhead within us. You know, we need to discover the Creator within us. But, you know, what is that, right? What is that? You know, it's really hard to decipher what that is. Some people are going to get it, you know, from a more advanced level. You know, I definitely understand it. But without some kind of foundation, you're going to get lost. You're going to get confused, and you're not going to know how to communicate with the spirits that are within you. I went through a state of almost going crazy when I was talking with all the spirits, because I had to deal with the shadow beings that tormented me since I was a child. I had to deal with those. I began to get very detailed uh, beings uh, throughout. The veil was extremely thin around that time. So I was seeing all these beings and stuff, and it was insane, man. It was insane, and it was trauma from, it was freaking me out just because it was the trauma from shadow beings and all that stuff. And seeing that stuff again was just insane. And, and it didn't help at the time, that they were saying, don't go in deep meditation, don't look at the third eye thing. It opens up hell's gates. And I thought that's what I did. It was all of this crazy stuff. And, we have to bring it a more realistic truth to this, is that how you can present that. You're in a meditation class, somebody really is in tune, they do remote viewing real quick, they begin to see spirits manifest before their eyes, but nobody else can see it. How are you going to handle that kind of situation? With everybody at a peaceful state. I mean, if you're at a peaceful state the whole time, you're all lovey-dovey, and you leave and go home, I I don't find that to be ideal. I don't. I think it really misses the point of it. Um, but that's just my viewpoint. That's my perception. I mean, everybody learns differently. The whole thing of everybody's where they need to be at is definitely very true, because we all learn from each other. If we didn't have no lower aspects of self, how would we learn that we have moved past that state, right? We move past that state. Um, I look at it like this. I was surrounded by friends that did drugs and drinking, young kids that were beat by their parents, and all this other bad stuff. And I experienced a lower state, and because I experienced a lower state, I was able to understand it better, and I learned from it, and I grew spiritually more because of it. Because I was thankful of my foundation that I had, not only in my household, right? My parents were awesome. I had a good household. uh I had Christ as my foundation always, and I was aware of it, so I was benefited there. And I grew spiritually more just because of those encounters. And I also planted seeds during those times too. I planted seeds for all those people, so then they could, learn more. But, it was just something different. But I mean, we learn about our lower aspects and we observe, and then as we grow more spiritually, we can go, hey, this person's depressed. I've been there too. So let's figure out a way on how to get you out of depressive state. Same with people who hear a lot of voices and who still see shadow people. I've had that kind of experience, so I can relate with those people. And it's hard too, because I mean, if you're being manipulated by those shadow beings, you don't know what to do, you don't know who to talk to. They just label you crazy. Again, that's why I say Christ is my foundation. You have to do praying, you have to do meditation. Um, there's just no other way. And those voices can run over you like nothing else. Man, it's very deep stuff. I take this stuff very seriously. I really do. And I try to joke around here and there, but I definitely have a passion for this, and I just gotta just start these classes. I really do. Whether two people show up, it will grow eventually. And I think I just really just have to just get this stuff out there, get these classes going, um, and just get this ball rolling. We'll do it in a private setting. I think that's definitely the best way to do it, and ideal way. So definitely a private setting will happen. So I gotta get, I have to get crap. I forget what it's called. Anyways, I'll get it situated. I'll let you guys know when I get it started. We'll get these classes going, and then we'll go from there. That way, then we can start this journey together. You know, whoever wants to walk beside me, not follow me, but walk beside me. We can learn together, and then we can start helping other people out. You know, bringing spirituality back in a real manner. You know, the way our ancestors taught us, right? From a spiritual sense, because like I said, you know, a lot of the stuff that's written on walls and that's, you know, still practiced this day is the Cain state of sacrifices, right? You know, that's what uh, sacred societies are doing to keep their magic going is the Cain state of being. So yeah, so at the end of the day, don't fall into the world. Don't trouble yourself. Be aware of what's going on, but don't consume yourself by it. And that's what the Spirit told me as I was doing this stuff. I was like, all right, there's so much stuff I want to bring to the table, but I can't do it all. I can't do it all. But I can bring it to you. I can present it to you because I want to have that knowledge, right? I want to have that knowledge so then I can present this stuff. You know, I mean, what a better speaker to have than one who is open-minded and knowledgeable in world affairs and spirituality and all that stuff. It's a good blend to have and a good platform to have on your plate. And that's why I do this type of research. But at the end of the day, I'm a healer. And I'm all about spirituality, and that's the root of it. And that's what I will continue to do. So yeah, so I'll let you guys know when these classes start. I got to get the ball rolling on that. It'll end up being an email-based link, and then we'll go from there. So I'll let you guys know what's going on, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, so love yourself, keep shining bright. So very important to have some kind of spiritual foundation, you know, whether it be Christ as your foundation, the Creator, the Divine Mother, whatever it is, nature. Number one thing is nature. Get back in tune with spirituality, some way, shape, or form. Energy, synergy. Get in tune with that. Get your spirit filled up, and continue to do so. So then you can learn and do research within yourself, within that I am. That is the most important thing. We can never overthrow something as massive on this world as the Prince of Air, right? Right, that's what they say, is that Satan is the Prince of Air, the Prince of Principalities, right? It's dominated by a military force. So, man, so that's just insane. So all we have is that spiritual force, and that's something that cannot be taken away from you. You're a battery, you're an energy conduit, and you want to keep that spiritual connection. And we're all in tune and connected with each other, you know. So, I mean, if you do praying and meditation sessions together, that builds up that energy and that synergy more and more and more, and people get in tune with it more. And it's just, man, there's so much dividing in this world, but yeah. But at the end of the day, it starts with you, and then we grow from there. So yeah, so love yourself, keep shining bright, and I will talk to you guys soon.